The crown didn't just whisper this time, it roared, and the echo allegedly shook nursery walls on both sides of the Atlantic. Because according to explosive palace chatter that's spreading faster than spilled tea on silk, King Charles III has supposedly pulled the most shocking royal lever in decades, activating an obscure heritage clause that insiders claim could place the future of Harry and Meghan's children under the watch of none other than Catherine, Princess of Wales. And if even half of what's being whispered behind those gilded gates is true, this isn't just family tension. This is legacy warfare. It all allegedly began with what one courtier dramatically described as the moment the crown decided enough was enough. No screaming match, no dramatic balcony scene, just sealed meetings, hushed corridors, and documents moving quietly through ancient institutions like ghosts with legal degrees. For months, rumors have swirled that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry were building a fiercely independent life, media deals, global appearances, carefully controlled glimpses of their children, and a brand that leaned more Hollywood than Windsor. Supporters called it modern. Critics called it monetized monarchy. But palace traditionalists, they allegedly called it dangerous. Because in royal circles, children in the line of succession are not just kids with famous parents, they're considered living threads in a 1,000-year tapestry. And the quiet panic, insiders say, wasn't about interviews or podcasts. It was about control. Control of image, control of access, control of legacy. Then came the event that royal watchers now describe as the spark in the Velvet Room. At a high-profile international gathering, the kind with diamonds, dignitaries, and discreet security, Meghan reportedly spoke passionately about motherhood, the future, and raising global citizens. Harmless? Inspirational? Maybe. But whispers claim certain symbolic references to royal lineage and heritage didn't sit well back in London. Because while Meghan was speaking the language of empowerment, the palace was allegedly hearing something else: independence without oversight. Cue the scrambling. Behind the scenes, senior royals were said to be holding private strategy discussions at Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. Not about headlines, but about heirs. One insider dramatically claimed this stopped being about public image and started being about constitutional responsibility. And that's when the name Catherine began surfacing in conversations that were never meant to leak. To the public, she's the polished future queen, school-run regular, and steady hand beside Prince William. But privately, royal aides have long painted her as something even more powerful in palace logic: stable, predictable, institutionally aligned. Exactly the kind of figure the old guard would allegedly trust with the continuity of the crown. Of course, none of this unfolded with public announcements or flashing cameras. If these reports are to be believed, it was paperwork, precedent, and protocols older than most countries. A rarely discussed mechanism, a contingency framework, a just-in-case lever that, according to royal historians, was designed for moments when private family matters collide with public constitutional duty. And suddenly, that dusty clause wasn't theoretical anymore. While all this was unfolding in Britain's most chandeliered rooms, Harry was reportedly thousands of miles away, attending events tied to his own philanthropic and professional world. Some sources paint him as focused. Others say distracted. A few more dramatic voices insist he had no idea how fast the ground was shifting under his feet. Meanwhile, Meghan's circle was said to be working on future projects, including deeply personal storytelling about her life, her struggles, and her experience inside the monarchy. To her supporters, it was reclaiming her narrative. To palace loyalists, it allegedly looked like open defiance. And when those two forces, personal storytelling and institutional preservation, collide, history suggests the crown does not blink. Enter Princess Anne. The famously no-nonsense royal, often described as the monarchy's steel spine, was rumored to have played a key behind-the-scenes role. One palace source dramatically put it this way: Anne doesn't do drama, she does duty. And once she believed the children's long-term position needed structure, the conversation changed tone overnight. Suddenly, this wasn't about who said what in interviews. It was about schooling stability, security oversight, and long-term identity. At least, that's how insiders frame it. And then came the alleged decision point. In a private gathering that gossip columns are already calling the most tense royal meeting since Megxit, senior family members reportedly reviewed options: do nothing and hope things settle, negotiate quietly, or activate formal guardianship structures that have existed on paper for generations. The claim, and again, this is palace rumor territory, not official record, is that the third path won, not to punish, not to humiliate, but, in the monarchy's own internal language, to protect continuity. And that's where Catherine's role supposedly shifted from supportive sister-in-law to something far more significant: designated guardian within a royal framework designed to buffer children from public turbulence. Supporters of Meghan and Harry are said to be furious at the mere suggestion. They argue this is institutional overreach, tradition weaponized against a modern family. Critics of the Sussexes, on the other hand, whisper that the palace finally drew a boundary it had delayed for too long. Two narratives, one family. Zero chance of a quiet resolution, because once the word custody starts floating anywhere near royalty, even in rumor form, the story stops being gossip and starts feeling like history in the making. And the most haunting part? The children at the center of it all are too young to understand that their bedtime stories are being written in legal language and legacy clauses. Inside palace walls, they say this is about structure. Outside, it looks like a royal tug of war with velvet gloves hiding iron grips. And if this truly is the crown reasserting ancient authority in a modern world, then the fairy tale ended the moment the paperwork began. Because the moment those sealed decisions allegedly left palace walls, the emotional fallout didn't stay quiet, it detonated across private phone lines, encrypted messages, and inner circles that suddenly realized the fairy tale had turned into a constitutional chess match. The first cracks, insiders say, showed up not in public statements, but in silence. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, it's loaded, calls not returned, messages left on read, mutual friends caught in the middle, choosing their words like they're tiptoeing across a frozen lake that might split any second. And at the center of that emotional storm, Harry. People close to him reportedly describe a man torn in half, loyalty to his wife on one side, the gravity of his birthright on the other. One longtime acquaintance allegedly whispered he thought he left the institution. He didn't realize the institution still had reach when it came to the kids. That's the part that stings in this saga. You can walk away from royal duties. You can step back from titles. But when it comes to children in the line of succession, the crown's interest is said to be permanent, patient, and very hard to outrun. Meanwhile, Meghan's camp is rumored to have gone into full defensive formation. Lawyers, advisors, PR strategists, everyone suddenly working overtime as whispers of guardianship frameworks and heritage authority swirled through media back channels. To her supporters, this wasn't protection, it was intrusion. A powerful ancient system closing ranks against a modern, outspoken woman who dared to build her own platform. One insider from her circle allegedly fumed they couldn't control her voice, so now they're trying to control the narrative around her motherhood. And that word, motherhood, is where this story gets emotionally radioactive. Because no matter how gilded the setting, a custody-related battle is deeply human. Strip away the crowns and crests, and it's still a mother, a father, and two children caught in a storm of history, power, and pride. Back in Britain, the atmosphere was said to be icy but resolute. Senior aides reportedly closed ranks around Prince William and Princess Anne, who were believed to be among the strongest voices pushing the idea that emotions cannot outrank duty. William, according to one dramatic palace whisper, framed it bluntly in a private discussion, this is not about headlines this week. It's about where those children stand in 30 years. Whether he said those exact words or not, that mindset is exactly how the institution is said to think. Long arcs, not short-term feelings. And then there's Catherine, suddenly at the center of a role no one ever imagined would be part of her public image. Friends of the Princess of Wales insist she never chased power, never sought conflict, and certainly never wanted to be perceived as stepping into another woman's maternal territory. But in royal logic, she wasn't chosen for ambition. She was chosen for steadiness. One insider put it in almost cinematic terms, in a family known for drama, Catherine is the calm room everyone retreats to when things fall apart. Still, calm doesn't mean comfortable, because privately, sources say, she's acutely aware of how explosive this situation looks from the outside. The last thing she allegedly wants is a public narrative painting her as the woman who replaced their mother. Palace aides are said to be working carefully to frame her role as structural, not emotional, guardian in protocol, not parent in heart. Across the ocean, the emotional temperature reportedly ran much hotter. Meghan, according to someone who claims knowledge of her reaction, felt blindsided not by tension that had been building for years, but by the formality of it all. Disagreements are one thing, the source said. Legal frameworks involving your children? That's war language. And that's when the story, already dramatic, took on a new layer, perception. Because in the age of social media armies and global fandoms, this isn't just a family matter. It's a narrative battle playing out in real time. Hashtags, think pieces, heated debates, some painting the monarchy as cold and controlling, others portraying it as finally enforcing boundaries it had tolerated too long. Publicly, statements have been measured, almost sterile. Privately, emotions are said to be anything but. Old wounds reopened, past interviews reinterpreted, every decision from the last 6 years dragged back into the light and re-examined like evidence in an emotional courtroom. And hovering hovering over everything is the unspoken question nobody can answer yet. What does reconciliation even look like after this? Because this isn't just about trust between spouses or siblings anymore. It's about trust between individuals and an institution that has survived for centuries by putting continuity above comfort. Some royal watchers believe this is the point of no return, that the line between Harry's nuclear family and the House of Windsor has now been drawn in legal ink, not just emotional distance. Others insist blood, especially royal blood, has a strange way of circling back. That time, children growing older and tempers cooling could someday turn this crisis into just another painful chapter in a very long family story. But right now, the vibe is not healing, it's holding breath in palace corridors where aides move carefully, knowing every memo could someday be leaked. Holding breath in California rooms where lawyers and advisors weigh next steps that could shape history. Holding breath in a family that once waved together on balconies, now divided by oceans, philosophies, and the brutal collision between personal freedom and inherited duty. And the most heartbreaking twist of all, the two little lives at the center of this storm are blissfully unaware that their future is being debated in legal phrases and legacy clauses. To them, the world is still toys, bedtime stories, and the familiar comfort of the people they love. But around them, giants are moving pieces on a board that was built long before any of them were born. This isn't just royal drama anymore. It's a battle over who gets to define the meaning of family when that family also happens to be a symbol, an institution, and a living piece of history. And whether this ends in reconciliation, resignation, or a permanent fracture, one thing is certain: the House of Windsor doesn't just survive scandals. It absorbs them, rewrites them, and carries on, even when the cost is painfully, publicly human.